Hey there, flavor adventurers. Welcome back to The Lost Taste, the channel where we revive the most delicious, forgotten, surprising, and sometimes downright unbelievable recipes from kitchens of the past. Today, we're diving into 15 forgotten African-American cakes, desserts that once filled homes with warm aromas, anchored holiday gatherings, and showcased the creativity of Black home bakers who made magic out of limited ingredients. Before we begin, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss any of our lost recipe journeys. And trust me, today's list is so incredible you'll want to stay until the end. Now let's step back into a world where resourcefulness met genius. First up, we begin with salt pork cake. Now don't let the name scare you off. This wasn't a savory experiment gone wrong. This was a brilliantly crafted dessert cake made back when butter was expensive or unavailable. African-American cooks often relied on what they had on hand, and salt pork, fatback, was a reliable cooking fat. When finely ground, rinsed, and beaten into cake batter with molasses, raisins, and bold spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves, it produced a dense, rich, moist cake, similar to fruit cake, but more tender and deeply aromatic. The saltiness balanced the sweetness, creating a flavor profile modern bakers might describe as nostalgic, earthy, and holiday-ready. So why did it disappear? Because most people today aren't eager to bake a pork cake. We no longer rely on salt pork as a baking fat, and the name alone scares curious hands away. But once upon a time, this cake was a treasured celebration of creativity in the kitchen. Next on our list is scripture cake. A cake with history baked into every step. Scripture cake wasn't just food. It was a learning experience, a cultural tradition, and a Sunday school teaching tool wrapped into one sweet dessert. Instead of listing ingredients directly, the recipes listed Bible verses. Young girls had to look up each verse, decipher its meaning, and figure out which ingredient it referred to. For example, 412 cups of 1 Kings, 422 meant flour. 3 tablespoons of Judges, 525 meant butter. 1 cup of Jeremiah, 620 meant honey. The result was usually a spice cake filled with raisins, nuts, figs, and warm flavors. Why did it vanish? Because modern cooks prefer convenience over decoding clues for hours. And with fewer households teaching cooking through scripture, the practice faded quietly into the past. Now let's talk about potato pound cake, a dessert that older cooks swore was the secret to achieving unmatched moisture. This cake folded leftover mashed potatoes right into the batter. Not only did the potatoes keep the cake moist for days, they added a velvety density and slight earthiness that made every bite feel comforting and satisfying. African-American cooks used this recipe to make sure no leftovers ever went to waste, especially during hard times. So why did it disappear? Instant potato flakes replaced real mashed potatoes, box mixes spread everywhere, and fewer families needed leftover hacks to stretch meals. But this cake remains one of the greatest examples of culinary resourcefulness. Speaking of surprising ingredients, we now reach sauerkraut cake. Yes, sauerkraut. This Depression-era miracle stunned anyone who first heard about it. Rinsed sauerkraut was chopped finely and mixed into chocolate cake batter. Instead of tasting like cabbage, the kraut acted like coconut. Its acidity reacted with baking soda to lighten the cake, and its strands melded into the texture like sweet shredded coconut. Why did it vanish? Because no one wants to hear, "I put pickled cabbage in your chocolate cake." But those who tried it often became believers. From cabbage to scarcity, we moved to boiled raisin cake, known at the time as poor man's cake. When milk, eggs, sugar, and butter were hard to come by. This recipe saved dessert dreams. You boiled sugar, raisins, water, and fat together, creating a fragrant syrup. Once cooled, flour, spices, and leavening were added. The result was a dense, dark, spice-filled cake that required no dairy and very little fuss. Why did it disappear? Because modern households are rarely short on eggs or milk. Water cakes feel old-fashioned, and not in a trendy way. Next, we rediscover the iconic mayonnaise cake. African American households embraced this cake from the 1940s onward. Instead of adding eggs and oil separately, this recipe simply plopped a full cup of mayonnaise into chocolate cake batter. Mayo is just eggs and oil emulsified, and as it baked, it transformed the cake into an unbelievably soft, rich, velvety dessert. Why did this cake fade? Because people forgot that mayonnaise is a cooking ingredient. Today, most folks think of mayo only as a sandwich spread, not the secret weapon for decadent chocolate cake. Then we come to old-fashioned gingerbread, the soft cake version, not crispy cookies. This cake was dark, bold, moist, and heavily flavored with molasses, ginger, cloves, cinnamon, and sometimes black pepper. It was often served warm with lemon sauce, making it the perfect cheap weekday dessert. Why did it vanish? Younger generations struggle with the intense bitterness of molasses. The flavor takes getting used to, and very few palates today grow up eating it regularly. Our eighth cake is the quirky orange slice cake. This was a true holiday treat, made with chopped orange slice gummy candies. These candies melted into gooey, sticky, delicious pockets inside the batter. Combined with pecans and sometimes coconut, the cake was sweet, dense, chewy, and colorful. Why did it disappear? Chopping gummy candy is a messy nightmare. You must constantly dip the knife or scissors into hot water so the candy won't stick. And fruitcakes of all kinds fell from popularity. Next is the famous prune cake. Prunes were cheap, accessible, and healthy. Boiled and mashed, they were added to spiced cake batter, creating a moist, deep, sweet, aromatic cake. A hot buttermilk glaze poured on top made it shine and kept it even softer. Why did it vanish? Modern generations associate prunes with digestive health rather than dessert. Prune cake doesn't exactly spark excitement today, even though it tastes incredible. Before we continue, here's your mid-video engagement question. What's the strangest dessert ingredient you've ever eaten or would be willing to try? Comment below and tell me, because I bet your answer might surprise someone else watching this video. Now on to Lady Baltimore cake, a towering masterpiece made famous in the South. African-American caterers were known for their exquisite execution of this cake. The layers were pure white, fluffy, and delicate, but the filling, a showstopper, figs, raisins, pecans, brandy frosting, and sometimes cherries. It was elegant, expensive, and impressive. Why did it vanish? It is unbelievably labor-intensive. Multiple layers, lengthy preparation, complex filling. It's not a quick weekend bake. Next, hot milk sponge cake, a humble but beloved tea cake. Its magic came from beating eggs and sugar until extremely thick, then carefully pouring in scalding hot milk and butter. This created a springy, fine crumb cake, perfect with coffee or tea. Why did it vanish? Because it's technique sensitive. If you fail to beat the eggs enough, the cake collapses. Box mixes replaced it with simpler, foolproof methods. Then we revisit mahogany cake, the ancestor of modern devil's food cake. Before Dutch processed cocoa existed, bakers used natural cocoa, which reacted with baking soda to create a reddish-brown color, mahogany. The flavor was more complex, less sweet, and slightly tangy. Why did it disappear? Because modern chocolate cakes are darker, sweeter, richer, and more instantly satisfying. Mahogany cake is subtle, and subtle rarely sells today. On to fresh coconut cake, where African-American cooks didn't just grab bags of shredded coconut at the store. They cracked actual coconuts, drained the coconut water to use as the liquid in the cake batter, and grated the fresh meat by hand. The frosting was fresh coconut mixed with sugar syrup. The result? Mind-blowingly fresh flavor no packaged coconut can replicate. Why did it vanish? Because cracking, draining, and grating a coconut is exhausting. Convenience beat tradition. Next is nutmeg cake, a cake dedicated to a single spice. No cinnamon, no ginger, no cloves, just nutmeg. Tons of nutmeg. Freshly grated nutmeg has a warm, woodsy, slightly peppery flavor that feels like stepping into an old kitchen heated by a wood stove. Why did it vanish? because nutmeg became a background note, not a lead character. Few people think of it as a star ingredient. Finally, we reach the legendary dried apple stack cake. Originating in the Appalachian and southern black communities, this cake was a labor of love. The dried apples were soaked overnight, cooked down into a thick spiced apple butter, and sandwiched between layers of stiff, cookie-like cake. The entire cake had to rest 2 full days so the layers could soften. Why did it vanish? Because no one today wants to wait 2 days for cake, or dry their own apples. And there they are, 15 forgotten African-American cakes, each one a testament to resilience, creativity, and flavor traditions built from necessity, community, and deep cultural memory. Which one surprised you the most? Which one would you actually try, or maybe even revive in your kitchen? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into culinary history, smash that like button, subscribe to The Lost Taste, ring the bell, and check out our next video where we'll rediscover even more forgotten desserts from the past. And as always, this video is educational and for entertainment purposes. It celebrates cultural heritage, but does not replace professional dietary or medical advice. Thanks for watching The Lost Taste. Stay curious, stay hungry for history, and I'll see you in the next episode.